Madam Web is getting destroyed by critics, and in this video I'm going to explain why it's okay to hate movies and why it's not disrespectful, instead it's very necessary. Before I begin, please support the channel by hitting that subscribe button, but only if you like this video. Let me begin by playing a few clips of reviewers bashing Madam Web.
That was the dumbest shit I have ever seen.
This movie is wretchedly bad.
It's a cinematic train wreck with the worst script of the year so far. I get it, still pretty early in the year. Still, feel like it's gonna hold that title for a while.
It is the worst performance I have ever seen in a superhero movie.
Now we know why she fired her agent right after the trailer came out.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That makes total sense. Even Dakota is embarrassed by this.
That was trash.
You know, whenever people say, I can make a movie better than that, no, you can't. You take the worst Hollywood film ever. You can't make a better movie than that. But I kind of feel like a lot of you could in this particular situation.
Now, is this disrespectful to the filmmakers? Or are the filmmakers even at fault here? Is it the producers with their constant interference that's causing this? It has been well documented that Sony loves to interfere with the creative process, but it won't be the first time that this has happened. But even after I consider that, I think it's perfectly okay to bash on movies. One of my favorite reviewers is Chris Tuckman. Many of you may know that he has stopped reviewing movies, specifically movies that he does not have anything positive to say about. I think it is understandable because he is now a film director. As filmmakers, I think it's tough to criticize each other's work. I mean, we don't see Chris Nolan reviewing Scorsese's movies and vice versa. And this has nothing to do with the video he just put out on Madam Web. I think it's perfectly fine if he wants to voice his opinion on a topic. And studio interference is a very legit issue in Hollywood. Studios matter, they definitely do. Angry Joe, another reviewer I have been following for years, commented on this video saying, Chris, I have to say this, man, after being a follower and subscriber of yours for as long as I can remember, never feel bad or straight out refuse to criticize something harshly even when that piece of media deserves it. The second you do, you are no longer a reviewer. And that's not bashing Madam Web, that's telling it like it is. And you need to continue to do that to maintain credibility. People will question you are being kind to something else for other reasons besides the merit of the media, and if you refuse to criticize harshly when warranted, Madam Web is a bait and switch. It's a waste of money. It's a blatant cash in from untalented hacks with some of the most shocking bad writing in any superhero film to date. People need to know that. I feel that because you are a filmmaker, you act as if you can't do certain things anymore or can't now do your job as effectively anymore. You can do both still, Chris. Who are you worried about offending so much? This video was so much soft trending when it's not warranted. You talk about everything else but this streaming pile of crap when we want to know what you thought of it. That's why we watch your videos. Never forget that for every shitty writer continuing to do movies like these, there are thousands of other writers and directors like yourself who are trying to make ends meet, who are far more talented getting passed over. You owe it to your audience to review something harshly when it deserves it, not tiptoe around it or sidestep it. And just because you bash a movie doesn't mean you are bashing the person or people who made it. Sometimes it's warranted, so all those involved can do better or step out of the way so that others can take their place. Don't be afraid to say what needs to be said, Chris. We want to get Stuckmanized. I think he's both right and wrong here. He's right because I do think Chris coming out with this specific video on Madam Web is him somewhat defending the movie. There are studio interferences in many movies and no one knows how much there is in each movie. It's something all creatives have to fight for. Remember that Francis Ford Coppola had a nightmare time shooting for The Godfather because of the studio interference.
Nothing was to prepare to the experience of The Godfather. Number one, it was a terrible experience. I was always on the verge of about to get fired, and a lot of my choices were immediately discarded. I wanted Al Pacino to play the character Michael, and they said that's ridiculous. No one's ever heard of him. And I wanted Marlon Brando to be the now famous Don Corleone, and they said, oh, he's a lot of trouble, and no one's going to see his films anymore. I wanted to make it in New York. They said, you can't make it in New York, it's too expensive. I wanted to make it set in 1945 the way the book was. They said, it's ridiculous, you can't do it, you can't have it, you can't do it. And this is a terrible movie, to the point where at least 4 occasions I came that close to getting fired.
What I think Angry Joe is wrong about though is that you can't do both. You can't both be a filmmaker and yet criticize other people's work. You cannot be a typical movie critic. No one does that in Hollywood and no one should. I really feel for Chris. I'm happy that he gets to make his own movies now, but I'm sad that we will never see him unfiltered as he is now a part of the film industry and he can't do anything about it. Let me also talk about the one department everyone loves to hate on, the people who assemble everyone, the people who take all the risks. It's the producers. Of course they have the power. They paid for the fucking movie. If the movie flops, he or she is the only person losing everything. I get that directors and writers pour their hearts and souls into their movies, but it's the producers who take the most risk financially and all they want is for the movie to do well commercially. Now, do I think that everything is becoming more black and white these days? Absolutely yes. It's easy to get views when you hate on something. It's tougher to get views when you love something. And it is impossible to get views when you are in the middle. Yeah, that's YouTube, especially when you are trying to get clicks when your channel is still very young. Me? I try to avoid bad movies like the rest of you all. I'm not a movie critic, just a movie fan. If Jeremy Jahns says a movie is dog shit, I ain't seeing it. Same used to be with Chris Tuckman. That's why you won't see many videos about bad movies because I just don't want to waste my money seeing them. Even though I know that making a video titled Madam Web is trash will get me a lot more clicks, especially because my channel is still small. There might be a time when I do start to cover all the movies, but right now I'm like you all. I'm just a movie fan who does YouTube on the weekends. Now, let's talk about movie critics or YouTubers who review movies full time. I think we have all those people who we follow for their opinions. After all, we can't see every movie out there. Everyone loves to make fun of Rotten Tomatoes. I don't. I love Rotten Tomatoes. It is one of the things I check on before watching a movie because like I said, I can't watch every movie that's out there. People often highlight the worst of Rotten Tomatoes, but there are so many smaller movies and indie movies out there that are highlighted just because the critics love it. Because most of the movie critics are hired by websites and have salaries, they tend to watch more movies than the rest of us. And in doing that, they can shine the light on filmmakers that will never get the limelight. But this happens only, and let me emphasize on this, only because the critics are often harsh on movies. You can find the diamond in the rough, but only when you have screened all the stones. And the movie critics are the screeners in my opinion. You can watch any movie you want. Maybe the subject matter piques your interest or it's a very anticipated movie of yours. But for most movies, especially the ones that are not on anyone's radar, movie critics still play a very important role and hence Rotten Tomatoes does too. American Fiction, a movie made at a budget of under $10 million, got the love it did because of the people and critics who supported the movie through festivals and reviews. There are dozens of American fictions out there every year and the importance of movie critics cannot be understated. Film criticism can help filmmakers only when critics are allowed to hate. Bad movies need to be called out. This sends a message to the studio executives as well. If you are affected by bad reviews, maybe you're in the wrong industry. If you are getting paid for your work and the producers are interfering, either you fight for your vision and try to convince them like Francis Ford Coppola did, or you back off. If you want to have full creative control, find a producer who can give you that. And if you can't find that producer, welcome to the real world where nothing comes easy, especially art. Why should we give directors or filmmakers a pass? Life is tough. Even making a PPT, completing an engineering project, writing a book, mopping the floor. I mean, there are people out there who are struggling to sleep or even breathe. Like I said, I know filmmakers pour their blood, sweat and tears into their movies, but let's not pretend that it's the only profession where that happens. It just happens to be a very public one. And yes, that comes with its challenges, but also does the fame. We all can make videos on hating Madam Web. It's not very difficult for me to say the words, Madam Web is hot garbage. And I know many of you will love that when I say that. And in reality, it probably is hot garbage. I just don't want to waste my time watching it, at least not right now. But I did want to make this video because I think some of the hate Stuckman is getting is unjustified, although I do think some of it is warranted as well. I also wanted to give you my opinions on film criticism and studio interference, and why both of them are necessary whether you like them or not. If you liked my take, please do support the channel by subscribing, and many thanks for watching.